Hi, and welcome to another episode of Rule of Carnage. This is where myself, Glenn Ford, and this guy, Mike Hutchinson, have chats about creating better miniatures games. So this week, we're both working on a few different projects we'll probably chat about in the next few conversations. But we were wondering, or Mike was wondering particularly, why it is that we keep putting campaign systems into the games we design. And I have a little opinion about it, and we have previously talked about designing campaign games, campaign systems. We talked a bit about the fact that we're not totally certain that people play campaign games, and is it a matter of value and et cetera, et cetera. So Mike,
you gentle reader, how many of the campaign systems that you have read, even for the games that you have played, have you in fact played? I wager it's a pretty small percentage. Well, it certainly is for me, although I do like them. Why do I keep putting them in?
I mean, I find that people who like campaign systems love campaign systems, and a lot of people want to be the sort of people who play campaign systems. I think that's a very significant part of why they're
it's almost an aspirational miniature wargaming lifestyle choice.
Well, yeah, because sometimes I hear people say, oh, I want to do X and I want to do Y, and my response is, I mean, you don't. You want to be the sort of person who wants to do X or Y, because if you wanted to do it, you'd do it. But what you really want is to be the sort of person who wants to do it, because you
spoke the man with more spare time than me.
Well, no, but I mean, it's you make priority. You do pick your priorities in life, and I do think a lot of the time people wish that they cared to play campaign systems, and so they like having them there as the cherry on the tree. So, I've just finished reading The Snare of the Tree and Other Perilous Seductions by Alex Kennedy, which is a handful of rules for game design, but more importantly, it's sort of where those rules get sort of twisted and perverted and go wrong. What he talks about in that is that generosity is a good thing and a thing to have in games design. And what he then talks about is the peril of that is the thing he calls the Book of Sand, which is where, so he was talking about writing an RPG. And the person who was writing it with gave him a skill list. And on the skill list, one of the things is climb. It says climb, the act of scaling walls, vertical or mountainous terrain, using equipment or barehanded. And he said back to them, I know exactly what's happened here is, what you've done is you've put climb, everyone knows what climb is, fine. And then you thought, no, wait a minute, my job is to give value to people by writing words. So here are some words describing what climb is in a completely pointless way, and that's not actual generosity from the game. It's not actually giving people something. It's like filling out pages with words because we write things and we fill pages out with words. And I think one of the things I worry, the little goblin on my shoulder about campaign systems is, you're writing this because this is a thing that you know how to engage with and how to fix a lack that's in a system. The marketing man somewhere is going to say, oh, more pages is better, which isn't true. We don't, when you go to see a movie, you don't check how many minutes it runs for and go, oh, I'll watch the one that's 120 minutes rather than the one that's 100.
True, but if it was only 15 minutes, you probably wouldn't bother.
If it was 15 minutes, and there is that line between, okay, what is a thing you put out on, like,
I mean, let's be real, like a really good war game can be compressed into 10 to 20 pages, absolutely no problem with that at all, but that's not a bindable number of pages. Like, you just can't make a nice object out of that. But anyway, so partly it's to pad up that spine.
Well, I think there's a bit of sort of, I as a writer feel a weight to give value to the audience, and one of the ways I feel like I can give more value is by putting a campaign system, because a campaign system sits right there and it goes, look at this is months and months of playing and developing, and it has this richness and this depth and all these lovely things to it, so it makes me feel like I'm doing something really worthwhile and really generous and really sort of speaking to my people and the fans of the thing that I'm putting out there. But I don't know if it is a generous act. I don't know always if it is sort of, if it wouldn't be better to not put those extra pages in and make people read those extra pages and go through them and wonder about the elements that are in there, and oh, am I not playing it right if I don't play the campaign system and all those sorts of things, is whether I should just say, you know what, if it's not really a game that is driven by the campaign system, maybe I should leave the thing out. I mean,
I think that's it. And I think like the rational part of my brain wants to take a game design that I've done, like Mystic Skies, the Magic Carpet game, which doesn't have a campaign system because it's very, very fun and complete in and of itself. And it, in fact, only has one scenario at the moment, but that scenario is so fun I haven't found myself needing to write a second one yet. And that game is not designed with the necessity for a campaign system. And so the rational part of my brain is like agreeing with you absolutely, which is that there are games which are brilliant fun without a campaign system and don't need a campaign system to sort of complete them. And then there are games for which, possibly as a result of the individual game experience not being fun enough or complete enough in itself, that it wants for a campaign system to kind of elevate it. But then there's a less rational part of me that's just like, partly just like, ooh, like campaigns are cool and character development is cool and ongoing narratives are cool, but also that like there's also an irrational part of me that just keeps coming to them and just saying like, okay, well, this is the part in my game text file where the campaign system will go. And so it's partly an automatic reaction. It's partly like it's now a habit of games to include such a thing, and therefore it's an expectation for players, because it's quite genuinely a sort of part of me that's like, well, at some point on Facebook someone's going to ask me, Mike, where's the campaign system for this new game? And so of course A Billion Suns has a campaign system, and the campaign system in A Billion Suns actually was a bit like of an afterthought, but it ends up being a really, really nice way to approach the game and to scale the game up. And I kind of wish that I'd discovered that campaign system much earlier on in the design, because I might have baked it more into the mechanics of the engine a bit more, because it's a meta escalation in a game that's about escalation, and so that is lovely and nice. But I sat down to write the Hobgoblin rulebook again recently. Doesn't have a campaign system, didn't have a campaign system, and then as we were doing some more playtesting and kind of tossing ideas backwards and forwards, like some of my collaborators were just genuinely experiencing like delight at like the idea of, well, I'd like to know what happens to this general or this magic item or these units or this. And so it's perfectly reasonable to want to have a series of narratives or a series of kind of growings. And it's like, well, on its surface the game is complete and doesn't need it, but like what happens after 10 games? Like, do you need a campaign system to extend the life beyond that? And so I don't know, like, why do I keep coming to campaign systems? I think there's lots of reasons why. Another reason I think is that placing a campaign system in the book sort of explains it's a way for you to explain to the players, this is what playing lots of this game will feel like. And then even if you don't actually use the campaign system, but you just play a bunch of spotty one-off games, you'll still be kind of imagining that that's how the game plays out. So if the campaign system says you control a country and it rises in fame as you get, as you win your games, or the campaign system says, the wheels fall off your trucks as you go further and further into the campaign, like you'll just be able to imagine that you were maybe playing that campaign system.
I mean, on a very sort of personal level, I think one of the reasons I keep going back to campaign systems is that I'm not quite sure how to write a really good campaign system. I'm pretty sure, I mean, I've seen lots of really great shooting phases and shooting systems. I'm pretty sure how to write a good one, and and I've certainly seen really good ones. Like I said, that for like movement phases and all the bits and pieces and paraphernalia that put together the basics of a skirmish game. I haven't seen, in my opinion, a really great campaign system with all the things that I want in a campaign system. I've seen some that do some bits well and other bits well, and I'm not 100% sure how to write a just a good solid campaign system in the way that I know how to write the basics of a skirmish game. I can get to a good campaign system with a lot of playtesting, a lot of tweaking, a lot of tinkering, but it's still a sort of trial and error and do and see process.
And for that reason, not only for the reason that it's harder to write them, or it's not as obvious how to write a good one, but also because of that problem that you just mentioned there, where it takes a very long time to do one iteration of a playtest of a campaign system. Like, it's ultimately a massive risk to put a campaign system in your book, because if you don't know that it's going to be fun, you can't guarantee it's going to be fun, then basically what you're saying is, here's a part of my game that might just explode with not funness, and warranty, I'm not providing a warranty, like, you can just have this. So, like, obviously you can work really hard to playtest it to within a practical degree that you can, but I think the inclusion, it's slightly mad. It's like, just don't include an unexploded bomb in the middle of your game. It might be terrible.
No, yeah, absolutely, because it's like,
you have empirical proof it isn't terrible.
Well, it's often been said, however much you playtest any game, the 24 hours after it gets into the hands of the public, it's going to have 10 times playtesting, 100 times playtesting than you've ever done. And that was certainly true for like the base game of Gaslands, and we tested the hell out of that with every single sort of permutation and combination, but definitely on release day, the number of plays it got annihilated the number of tests we'd done. And then the campaign system is inherently, a full playthrough of any campaign system is like 10 times the amount of physical work, and it's so much more tempting for a campaign system to pull out bits of it and abstract parts of it, to go, okay, well, I'll call them A, B, C, and D, and A will win the first 3 games and so on, and then we'll set it up like that, and then we'll play game 4, because it feels like that's the bit that needs tweaking and fixing. Whereas, like, really running a whole campaign system for end to end as a playtest with other human beings is it's absolutely backbreaking. It's far more than sort of playtesting a normal game. So they are insanely hard to playtest, tricky to write, questionable whether many people even want them. Why?
I'm still going to write them, Glenn. I am still going to write them.
And this is the thing, I've got sort of,
because even if they do want them, they think they want them, and I think they want them, and also I think that they communicate flavor and sort of gameplay aspiration in a way that's really exciting. I think that the presence of them makes the game more attractive overall, because it provides a potential depth of play that is that's more understandable on the surface. It's like seeing that the new Netflix series has like 15 episodes rather than 6 episodes, even though 3 episodes might be all you need to tell the most heart-wrenching and beautiful and exciting story that you've ever been told. There's a perception of value there. So I don't know, there's lots of reasons to write them.
Yeah, I know.
And then there's the occasional game, as I'm sure we'll get to in the coming weeks and conversations, for places where, do you know what, the game really needs one, and it's exactly right with one, and it's essential. But those are actually weirdly rare.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I have been fiddling with a game which is built around a campaign system primarily, that only makes sense as a campaign system.
I sense another conversation.
Possibly. This is what I'm sort of been kicking around. So, yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know exactly why we keep going back to campaign systems. It feels like something it makes me think of our conversation last week about Man of War. That I love Man of War, and there are reasons I definitely know why I love Man of War, but I don't really know why I love it. I know why I like it. I don't really know why I love it. I keep going back to campaign systems, despite all the reasons I shouldn't. And I know I'm going to keep going back to them. And I know why I should like them. And I know why I shouldn't do them, but I don't know why I keep getting pulled back in.
Oh, campaign systems, why can't I quit you?
I wish I knew how to quit you. Okay, well, that's a little chat about our peculiar and sort of ongoing confusing romance campaign systems. We're going to keep writing them. Hopefully people will keep playing them. If you've watched this conversation to this point, please do like and subscribe, and please tell us your favorite campaign systems. I have opinions that there are bits of campaign systems that have been done brilliantly. I don't personally have never come across a campaign system that does all the things that I want really, really well. So, you know, I know that there are people who are going to disagree with that. So come back at me in the comments section. Tell me the game that you've played where you love every single part of that campaign system, every bit of the development and the balancing and the meta and the peaks and troughs of it. And you tell us why you think people keep writing and putting in campaign systems, and tell us if you like to see them, if you enjoy, you know, having them in your game, or if you're like, oh damn it, that I thought these 10 or 20 pages would be full of something good and it's just a campaign system. Nah. You know, let us know whether you like to see them and whether we should write more, or we should just give it up entirely and make a clean break of it. But for now, I think that's going to be this chat from Rule of Carnage over, and we'll be back next week. So thank you and goodbye. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye.